Jananam sukadham maranam karunam milanam madhuram smaranam Sakalam karunam samayadipate akilam karunam. Good morning, everyone. Am I disturbing your breakfast? There was a time when, a couple of centuries ago, when the religious leadership dominated the world. And later, as the military machines on the planet grew, the military leadership dominated the world. In the last 100 years, democratically elected political leaderships have dominated the world. Particularly in the coming decade, it is going to be so that the business and the economic leadership is going to dominate the world. But the business has an albatross hanging around their neck that they're not concerned about anything else other than their personal ambitions and profit. When such a tremendous responsibility is coming towards business, it's important that the business leaders re-engineer themselves from personal ambition to a larger vision. If this doesn't happen, we will end up with a world in the next 20 years, a world without leadership, because when a community is offered leadership, if they don't take it, the trends of the world are such you cannot reverse it and put it in somebody else's hands. So time has come for the business to evolve into a leadership position. And this cannot be done if they're thinking from quarterly balance sheet to quarterly balance sheet. They need to have a larger sense of what the impact of what they're doing is. Today, over 70% of the world's activity is business. Human beings, 70% of their activity is actually engaged in some sort of business, whatever kind. When 70% of our time, energy and involvement is in business, I think unless we conduct it in a way that enhances our own life and everybody's life around us, the whole humanity will go to waste if we continue to do things which don't mean anything to us. In the name of business, people have separated business and life. I'm trying to bring it together wherever I go. It's the business of life. There is no business and life. Life is business, your business is life. I happened to be… the first time I went to the World Economic Forum, a few business people were very resentful. What is a mystic doing in an economic event? So I asked this person, he was an American person, and I asked, what do you do? He said, we manufacture computers. They were one of the leading computer manufacturing units, hardware manufacturers. Probably a year later they got bought over by the Chinese. So I said, see, whether you manufacture computers or cars or spacecraft or a safety pin, it doesn't matter what you manufacture. You might have forgotten, but there's only one business, the business of human well-being. All these things started only in the interest of human well-being. In the process of doing it, you might have forgotten, but that's the only business, human well-being, and that's my business too, that's why I'm here. And that's the only reason why we should be anywhere, because there is a business of human well-being. And as human beings, the leadership of the world is moving into the hands of the business at a very fantastic time, I would say, in the sense, never before in the history of humanity, any generation ever was capable of what we are capable of today. We have the necessary resource, capability and technology to address every human problem on this planet. Only thing that's missing is human beings who are inclusive enough to make a solution out of this. In our lives, if we do not do what we cannot do, that's not an issue. But if we do not do what we can do, we are a disastrous life. It's my endeavor to see that we don't become a vain, disastrous generation like that, everything at hand and we didn't do it. If it was not possible, that's different. Even 25 years ago, this was not a possibility. But today, if we wish, we can find solutions to everything on the planet in a very short span of time. The statistics say that if we spend $15 billion a year for the next 15 years, every child on this planet can be nourished and educated. We have never thought of these things in terms of raising a humanity. We are thinking of raising Indians, Americans and this and that, and we are still somewhere else. The technological breakthroughs has broken through all boundaries that we had set in the form of nation, race, religion, whatever else. But still, people who are in responsible positions, people who have leadership positions have not broken through in their own minds and consciousness, for which every creature on this planet, not just human beings, every one of them are paying a huge price. So this social venture business, whatever, it should not be an exclusivist group. It should be the mainstream. We should run businesses in such a way. I'm not talking about being philanthropic. I'm not for philanthropy, I'm not for charity. It's time we engineer our businesses with long-term vision. See, for example, I have kind of inspired a few major businesses in India to take to these things and they're doing a wonderful job. It's time such things happen everywhere. I was just telling this industry leaders, major industries have become like nations by themselves. They carry, 500,000 people working and their budgets are almost the size of a small nation. I said, see, in India, coconut farming in southern India is a very popular thing to do. A farmer, a poor farmer, if he plants a coconut tree, he waits for 10 years before he sees money out of it, because he knows if he takes care of it for 10 years, next 100 years, him and the next generation is taken care of. A simple, illiterate farmer does this. I said, why are you guys going around from one business school to another school, trying to take the cream out? You need to churn the bottom if you want a lot of cream. You're just trying to take the cream out. If somebody is just interested in the cream and not interested in the labor of churning what needs to be churned, that amounts to robbery as far as I'm concerned. No? Somebody wants to just take the cream, not interested in the labor of churning it up, it amounts to robbery. I said, this is what you're doing. You're going to the top schools and picking up the crop out there because you have the money to pick it up. 70% of rural India lives in a state where hardly there's any educational infrastructure, very rudimentary stuff. I said, why don't you take one area and invest in the education? In terms of money, it's really nothing. If you invest and for 15 years, you will have a crop of people who will be loyal to you, who will want to serve your company because you have educated them. And you'll have good human resource, which is going to be the biggest challenge right now. Finding the right talent for what you're doing is the biggest problem. So a few industries went seriously into this and they're doing this education thing way bigger than us today. Because they have the money and the means and now they have the intention. Like this, many things need to happen. We should not think about investing in people as some kind of a philanthropic activity. This is an investment for the future. If you develop a very competent population across the world, your ability to run the business becomes effortless, you know. Right now the biggest problem is finding the right people and making them happen, and they are so limited, so you have to endure all kinds of nonsense from everybody around you. If the talent was all over the place, people would behave too, isn't it? Right now, if somebody has little talent, he must be little freaky too along with that. He can afford to be. No, there is a whole lot of humanity that's been untouched because what is the aspiration of a business? This must be understood. The aspiration of business is not profit, the aspiration of business is expansion. Expansion means whatever you're doing, whether you're manufacturing a safety pin or a computer or whatever, you want it to reach 7.2 billion people. It must become an inclusive process. If it becomes an inclusive process, an all-inclusive process, you don't have to worry about being socially conscious and this and that, anyway it'll benefit people. Instead of trying to be philanthropic, instead of trying to run our businesses with just a philanthropic, helpful attitude, it's time we run businesses more sensibly because the idea of business, the idea of ambition is to reach the ultimate possible potential. So instead of a narrow ambition, if we just shift it to a larger vision of what are we creating around us, the scope of the businesses can expand phenomenally and people will definitely benefit because today, the business or the economic activity on the planet is determining the nature of how people live. Only if this happens, that people have good life, only then I become relevant. You know, I'm setting up my platform. If all the businesses function well and people are well-to-do, that is when, after the stomach is full, people see still life is not meaningful, that's when I become relevant. So I'm setting up the platform through you. Because if people have not eaten well and lived well, then you ask them to meditate, they're not going to do it. Their meditation will happen only in the stomach, nowhere else. So being socially conscious is fine, I'm not trying to get at the concept of that, but it should not be an exclusivist group. It is very important. Being globally relevant should be the goal of every business because unknowingly they're all aiming at it, but with a very narrow mindset. It's time that we consciously aim our businesses to be globally relevant. And for this to happen, one important thing is we have to raise beyond, you could Today you could fall in love with somebody in another country that you have never been to. Yes, through your Facebook, I'm saying. And it's a very wonderful love affair because you don't have to meet them at all, never get into trouble. Whole lot of people are going through life like this. So when national borders don't mean anything in terms of communication and businesses operate across the world, it's time to think globally. It is time to think whether what we're doing is relevant to we as a humanity and a planet that we are. If that relevance is not there, there are a million other things to do. I'm not trying to speak for one type of business and against another. Whatever the business that you're doing, it doesn't matter. Whether you're manufacturing that low energy consuming what? The car, if you can call it a car, it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle because I saw the handle in India, we call this an auto rickshaw, you know. Whether you're doing that or you're doing a high energy consuming car, it doesn't matter what you're doing. But if your thought evolves to a place whether what I'm doing is relevant or not relevant, will this expand to touch every life on the planet? I'm talking about a business plan, not philanthropic plan, as to how to expand and touch as many lives as possible, because that is the only way business can expand. And long-term relationships are the only way business becomes sustainable. Unless what you're doing is relevant for me for a long time, why would I have anything to do with you? So the good thing about a business person, juxtaposed with religious and military and other kinds of leaderships is, you can never get two religious people to agree upon anything because if they agree, their business will collapse. Yes. Two military leaders cannot agree because without boundaries, militaries will be meaningless. There's no boundary, there's no border to protect, militaries will become meaningless. Political leaders, well, you know, they're not been able to agree. They've been proving a point for the last month. But a business person is willing to make a deal with the devil if the deal is good. And that's a good sign that you're not deciding with whom to transact and whom not to transact. If the deal is good, you're willing to transact, that's a good sign and this needs to happen, that you don't make a devil out of somebody. Right now we are busy making one set of people good and another set of people bad. It's time you do business with the bad. That's the only way you can transform the situation. If you exclude the bad will eat up the good. Because bad has more passion and energy always. Good likes to rest, you know. So, it is not about your goodness, it's not about your philanthropy, I'm just talking about doing business in a more sensible way. What we need is sense, not goodness. We don't need good people, we need sensible people on the planet who will do the right things, which will be a solution. With good intentions, if you do terrible things, what's the point? So, businesses have to evolve from personal ambition to a larger vision for the sake of their own well-being. Don't think of other people's well-being. Business person's business is to just run the business and expand the business and make sure his business is sustainable for the… You must think, will my business sustain itself for next 100 years? If you think of sustaining your business for next 100 years, there is no way you cannot think of the well-being of everybody else. Otherwise you cannot create something which will sustain. So, always, I've been somebody who's constantly been talking against corporate social responsibility because you steal all the cream and then you give out a handout and you feel, wash your guilt with something. No, there is no necessity to have corporate social responsibility programs. The business itself must be socially responsible. Why make profit in all kinds of ways and then give out 2% and feel all right about it? That is just an eye wash for somebody else. I'm saying, if your life has to become meaningful, 70% of the activity that you perform, if it is meaningless, how will your life become meaningful? I cannot understand that. Only if everything that you do in your life is in sync with who you are and what you want in your life, if it is not in sync with that, how will life ever become meaningful for anybody? Continuing to do things which don't mean anything to us in our lives is a sure way of destroying ourselves. After some time, this activity will cease. If you continue business like this, it may so happen the next generation will not take to it. They don't see any meaning in taking on to an activity which doesn't mean anything to them. It is time that business is structured in such a way that it means a world to everybody because it sustains and makes everybody's lives. Now, there are many ways to get to the top. But the question is, will you stay there? Can I tell you? You're all getting very serious. Can I tell you a joke? Don't be so serious about your breakfast. One reason why human beings do all kinds of nasty things around themselves, to each other and to themselves and to everybody is because they're dead serious about their lives. It's a serious problem. On a certain day, a bull and a pheasant were grazing upon the field. The bull was grazing upon the grass and the pheasant picking ticks off the bull, partnership. There was a huge tree at the edge of the field. The pheasant very nostalgically looked up at the tree and said, "Oh, alas, there was a time when I could fly to the topmost branch of the tree. Now I do not have enough energy in my wing even to get to the first branch of the tree." The bull very nonchalantly said, "That's no issue. Eat a little bit of my dung every day. Within a fortnight you will reach the topmost branch of the tree." The pheasant said, "Come on, what kind of rubbish is that?" The bull said, "Really, try and see, the whole humanity is on it." Very hesitantly, the pheasant started pecking at the dung, and lo, on the very first day it reached the first branch of the tree. Within a fortnight it did reach the topmost branch of the tree. Sitting on the topmost branch of the tree, just beginning to enjoy the scenery, an old farmer was rocking on his rocking chair. Saw a fat old pheasant sitting on top of the tree, pulled out his shotgun and shot the bird off the tree. The moral of the story is, even bullshit may get you to the top, but it never lets you stay there. It's time we do something sensible. Because 70% of the world's activity is business, it's time we do something sensible, not just bull ourselves to some sense of well-being which will crash after some time. If you have questions, any kind of question, please.
And if you have a question, please say your name and organization before your question. And if you have a comment, feel free to share a comment too, but please keep them brief so we can hear from as many of you as possible.
Larry, Leon, thank you so much for being here. It seems to me that one of the greatest challenges we have are the religions, the radical religions in the world that divide us and take themselves and ourselves way too seriously. How do we work through those conversations and break through those conversations?
So, you don't want me to live long. Now, See, for a long time, people have been told very rudimentary things that even a kindergarten child won't believe anymore. But still it's being rubbed into people. And the only way to make sure that people will believe this is to cause a strife. Understand? If you threaten your life with something on the street, you will also become a part of one of the radical groups. It's a simple way, it's a simple technology that if we burn 10 of your homes, the remaining 90 of you will align yourself either this way or that way. It's a very simple technology. And it's been successfully being employed for a very long time. So, it's not something that you can end it tomorrow. But if we don't strive for something today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not even happen in our lifetime, but we can definitely take a few steps in the direction. One important thing is see, a human being needs something more than bread and butter. Once you come here as a human being, this is your problem. See, if you had come here as any other creature on this planet, stomach full, life settled. Once you come as a human being, stomach empty, only one problem. Stomach full, 100 problems. This is the nature of the human being. Because your life begins, for all other creatures, life comes to a conclusion when survival is taken care of. For you, your life begins only after survival is taken care of. Because of this, once survival is taken care of, people are looking for something. Nobody to guide them what that something is. So if you show them, up there in the clouds, there is something else, they will all look that way. But you know that you're sitting on a round table, round planet. You're sitting upon a round planet, which is spinning. So if you think this is up, invariably you're wrong, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes or no? Does anybody here know or anywhere know which is the upside of this cosmos? Is it marked somewhere, this side up? You could make a business out of this. Just put markers, this way up for this cosmos. You could sell it, and that is what they've been selling for a long time, this way up. Nobody can dispute it. It's an unbeatable logic. You can neither prove it nor disprove it. So, it just goes on and on. But what we need to understand is, a human being has a longing to touch something of the beyond. If you do not create the possibility, the right kind of possibility, a sensible possibility for a human being to touch that dimension, he will believe something because, tick, 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 time is running out. The damn life has come with an expiry date. The moment you become conscious, it's getting over somewhere, and what about this? Okay, I ate well, I did things well, then what? You need something, an experience beyond the limitations of where you are. If this is not there, invariably you will end up believing something simplistic. And once you believe something, and somebody else believes something else, initially we are all friends, we sit at the same table and discuss these things. But when it really comes to the crunch, we'll kill each other. Because what you believe becomes because what you believe is so fragile. Unless you staunchly protect it, it will die in no time. You gotta keep it up. It is not like… How many of you believe that you have two hands? All such people just raise one hand. Do you believe that you have two hands, or do you know that you have two hands? Can somebody argue with you and prove to you that you have no two hands? If his argument becomes too overwhelming, one slap in the face, he will know you got hands. But the belief systems are so fragile, if you don't staunchly protect it, it will die. If you ask a question, it will die. This is the problem. You know, we've been active in Arabia, in Lebanon and other places. I'm not abusing anybody, I'm just asking a few questions. Why is a question insulting? Only because you don't have the answer. Yes? Yes or no? If I abuse you, you get angry with me, understandable. If I just ask a question, why do you get angry? You obviously don't have the answer and you are not straight enough to admit I don't have the answer. That is your problem, isn't it? I just raised some questions in a public meeting. People say, you will leave this country head first. I said, please, this is what all of us need to do. Any space we enter head first. That's how we entered this world. From our mother's wombs we came head first, not legs first. Isn't it? Isn't it a good way to enter any place head first? That's not what they're meaning. They're meaning you will leave this country horizontal, not standing. Just because you ask a question, why is it? A question is a problem. Now, this is one thing. In the minds of our children, the moment they're born, everybody is busy trying to tell them all the things which they don't know. The only thing that I have done with my life is, I remained absolutely uneducated. And it's not easy, believe me. From the first day you are born, your parents, every adult, teachers, everybody is trying to educate you with something that's not worked for them. Yes. If it had worked for them, if it had really worked for them, as children, how joyful they were. If at the age of 5, if they were joyful, by the time they're 30, they must be ecstatic. You don't see ecstatic faces all around you. Obviously, it's not worked. So everybody is busy wanting to transmit something which has not worked for them. You must fill your children's minds with more questions than they have, not filled with stupid answers that you yourself do not know. Yes, everybody knows the address of God, but they know nothing about themselves. So I am not speaking for or against anything, all I am saying is, if human intelligence is not sharpened by constantly seeking, from believing to seeking, if you become a seeker, you have no fight with anybody. But people have not realized the immensity of I do not know. I do not know is a tremendous possibility. Only if you see I do not know, the possibility of knowing ever arises in your life. Everything that you do not know, you believe, you close your life, it's a conclusion. And if we work hard enough on you, we can make you believe just about anything. I was speaking to a group of people in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a very special place. You're from Tennessee?
I've been trying to tell them.
So I was just telling them a joke. In the joke, I referred to God as Him. Immediately a few ladies stood up and said, do you believe God is a man? Whoa, 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 I'm only telling you a joke. It doesn't matter, you said Him, do you believe God is a man? Now in this culture, debate has risen, why can't God be a woman? But we come from India, we have no such problems. We have a man god, we have a woman god, we have an elephant god, a cow god, a snake god, flying ones, creeping ones, crawling ones, every kind. Because, India is a very wise culture. We foresaw all the future problems that may arise. You heard of Idi Amin, the Uganda man? Idi Amin declared God is black. I agree with him. Because if a white man can have a white god, why can't a black man have a black god? That also has become a big debate in the southern churches in the United States. You try to settle it with the last 2 elections, but it's not worked really. But you people do not know what God looks like because Indians are very proud of this, you must understand this. The Indians are very proud. To other places in the planet, God sent His son, messenger, all kinds of people. But in India, God Himself landed 9 times. Do you know this? You don't know? He Himself landed 9 times. I keep reminding them, that is because God wanted to do the job hands-on with Indians. He did not trust anybody else with them. And He came Himself 9 times and He failed. We know God is brown because we have seen Him. If we work hard enough on you, we can make you believe anything, understand? From the moment you are born, if I keep on telling you, this little finger is God, if I raise this little finger, genuinely divine emotions will overflow within you. If it's too bare, I can dress it up. If I tell you this little finger is devil, if I do this, terror will arise within you. Do not underestimate this. When people believe, just about anything can do it. So, belief systems have ruled the world for too long. It's very important that we shift people from believing to seeking. With seeking, a human being will grow continuously. With believing, he's become a conclusion. Conclusion is death. Seeking is life. Life will happen only because we seek. We must bring this about in the world.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask a question about ethics. About ethics. And I know a yoga practice about the yamas and niyamas, which are practices that instead of being moralistic, good or bad, they create powers. So if you tell the truth, then ultimately everything you say becomes true. Or if you are nonviolent, truly nonviolent, then no one can be violent around you. So I think the Western view of ethics is good or bad. And I wanted to ask you about the yogic view of it creating sort of a strength of character.
I know largely Western cultures have been cultured on morality and ethic. It all started with thou shalt not. Just because I say thou shalt not, will you stop? You will also tell somebody else thou shalt not and you continue to do it. Because if in this mind, I want you to understand the nature of this mind. These things have been said without understanding the nature of a human being, how he is made. Right now, a simple experiment for all of you. Next 10 seconds, thou shalt not think of a monkey. Anybody successful? No. So this is the nature of the mind. If you say, this should not happen, only that will happen in your mind. In this mind, there is only addition and multiplication, there is no subtraction and division. Forcefully, you cannot take away one single thing from this mind, can you? Can you? Anybody? No, that is not the nature of the mind. Without understanding the fundamental nature of the mind, the moment you say, I should not do this, I should not do that, that will rule you from within. Why are you looking at what you should not do? Now, I'm not trying to teach you positive thinking. People who try to teach positive thinking, they all ended up in suicide or neurotic conditions. I'm not talking about positive thinking or negative thinking. All these things are coming because we have no clarity of vision. The only and only way you can know life is by enhancing your perception. What you perceive, you know. Rest is just imagination. Instead of enhancing your perception, you mentioned yoga. The whole science of yoga is only towards this, to enhance your perception. You definitely have heard the symbolism of the third eye. What the third eye means? To be able to see everything, a thoughtless eye, an eye without memory. Right now your two eyes are loaded with memory. If we erase all the memory in your mind right now, at least 30 to 40% of the things around you cannot see. Do you know this? Are you aware of this? For example, you're driving on the street, 100 people are standing somewhere on the sidewalk. You just look like this. A friend of yours is there in this crowd. Of all these 100 faces will look like a blur, but your friend's face stands out. Have you noticed this ever? Because your vision is largely aided by your memory. At least 30 to 40% of what you're seeing right now, you will not be able to see if we take away the memory from your mind. So these two eyes are loaded with memory. So because it's loaded with memory, it's prejudiced. If I look at this person, if I have known this person yesterday and she's been nice to me, I say, oh, she's a good person. If I look at this person and yesterday he did something I did not like, I'll say, oh, he's not nice. This is loaded with memory, it cannot see what is there. It sees as the memory accumulation is. So to develop a vision which is thoughtless, which simply sees everything the way it is, your perception is enhanced. Only when your perception is enhanced, you know life. If you have morals and ethics and values, they will come in handy in a society to some extent, but they will never clean you up. It is… the more people talk about moral values, within themselves the more disturbed they are. You will see they become lifeless and joyless because you're trying to enforce something. People always think everybody has a tendency to do bad things and you have to fix them. No, they have a tendency wanting to live. How will your life happen at its fullest if you don't show them a way? They will try to find all kinds of ways to do it. 20% of our time, energy and resource is spent in the prisons in India and also a little bit here. People always ask me, Sadhguru, we are all waiting for you, why are you spending so much time with these criminals? I don't see any criminals, all I see is everybody is in pursuit of their happiness. The man that you call as a criminal pursues his happiness far more vigorously than you. That's all the problem is. In pursuit of your happiness, you're willing to stand in a line, he wants to jump the line. That's all he's doing, because he can't wait. Yes or no? That is the person who becomes a criminal, isn't it? Because he cannot wait in the line, because his effervescence for happiness is so big that he can't stop. If he has to bash you in the face and take it, he will do it, because he wants to be happy so desperately. Everybody is in pursuit of happiness. Why is it? I know it's even enshrined in the constitution of this nation, pursuit of individual happiness. If you're in pursuit of something, obviously you haven't gotten it. Yes or no? You tell me, whether joy happens to you or misery happens to you, does it rain upon you or does it come from within you? Hello? Does happiness rain upon you or misery rain upon you, or does it come from within you? It always comes from within you. Situations happen around us. It is our response to those situations which either makes us miserable or joyful. Right now, do you see me? Hello? Do you see me? Even if you're not listening to me, do you see me? Use your hands and show, where am I? Ah, you got it wrong. You know I'm a mystic from South India. Now this light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the whole story? Where do you see me right now? Within yourself. Where do you hear me right now? Within yourself. Where have you seen the whole world? within yourself. Have you ever experienced anything outside of yourself? The whole gamut of human experience is happening within you. At least what's happening within you must happen the way you want it, isn't it? What's happening around you will never happen 100% your way, and I'm glad it is so. Because if the whole world happened your way, where do I go? I'm glad it's not happening your way. A little happens your way, little happens my way, little happens somebody else's way, it's fine. But at least what's happening within you must happen your way, isn't it? If what's happening within you happened your way, would you keep yourself blissful or miserable? You must choose right now, I'm going to bless you. You're not making a choice. If you had a choice of how to be within yourself, would you choose utmost pleasantness or unpleasantness for yourself? What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but what you want for yourself is definitely highest level of pleasantness, isn't it? When you are feeling utterly pleasant, if I meet you, I'm sure you are a wonderful person. But if I meet you when you're angry, frustrated, miserable with something, you could be a nasty person, isn't it so? Is this true for every human being? So why is it that we have never strived to create a joyful humanity? We are trying to create a good humanity who is miserable. Miserable people will naturally share their misery with the rest of the world, and that's all they're doing. It doesn't matter what kind of morals you give them, what kind of ethics you give them. When you are feeling miserable, won't you rub it off on somebody? You will. So the greatest insurance to see that people do the right things is that we have to invest in making human beings into a joyful, effervescent, life-oriented human beings. Now, it is natural for them to be pleasant. It is natural for them to do the right things, whatever sustains life around them. At least if you are joyful, you tell me this, if you had a choice to work and live with people, would you choose joyful people or miserable people? Joyful people. I want you to please remember, everybody else is aspiring for the same thing. Everybody around you is aspiring for the same thing. That's the best thing you can offer. When you're joyful, do I have to tell you, don't kill that person? Thou shalt not kill, should I tell you? You will not kill. You will not do those things. All this is because there is a certain sense of lack of joy and completeness within you. To fulfill that, you have to do many miserable things in pursuit of happiness. If you are in pursuit of your happiness and I am in pursuit of my happiness, both of us come this way and meet like this, head-on. Right now, two types of businesses are meeting like this. If you meet like this, initially out of your morality, out of your ethics, you'll say, please move aside. If they don't, you will shout. If they don't, you will shout. If they don't, you will shoot. Don't underestimate yourself. If something really stands in the way of your life, you want to get rid of it one way or the other, isn't it? If you are joyful by your own nature, you will do what's needed naturally. You should not be in pursuit of happiness. You must be an expression of joy. Only then you will see humanity will be on the right track.
Hello, I'm Adam Saichik from Arjuna Capital, and I'm sure you could tell us a lot about Arjuna, but that's not my question. The question really has to do with the role of business versus the role of democracy in society. And there are 1 billion of us that are wealthy in the world, and 8 billion that are less wealthy. And it's really a question about the role of government and democracy, and whether we should be putting so much emphasis on business in this country. So the question is really about Europe versus the United States, and I know you travel all over the place. And it seems to me that in Europe, they've had a more evolved consciousness of the collective around the importance of dealing with this fundamental problem that you talk about, which is relieving scarcity and having a deep social safety net. And that has come from collective power of democracy and government. In this country, we've created a false sense of scarcity, and we have many suffering people. So, what do you think of the European model of coming together in a democratic way and creating a deep social safety net in a wealthy country, and then using that as a foundation for creativity and for business? And how do you evaluate what they're doing versus what we're doing, and what can we learn from them and from you?
In the immediate context, I don't think the European model will fit into the American mindset. I don't think it will work. And is European model the best thing? I would say no, because of various ugly realities behind that model, which I don't want to go into in this space. It's time that we, explore the possibility in the world as it is. When I'm in these economic summits, which is just a small part of my activity, but that's being hyped as if it's big. Yes, I spend substantial time, but my main activity is not economic summits or social ventures. Yes, there are enough things going on, but mainly about raising consciousness. What does the word consciousness mean is to touch a dimension which is beyond physical in you. Because the nature of physicality is established only because of a defined boundary. Only if there is a defined boundary, physicality is possible. For example, we can call this a physical body because there is a defined boundary. If I take away the boundaries of this body, you cannot call it physical anymore. So the reason why we are operating the way we are operating is, you know that within your brain there is a fish-sized reptilian brain. This is always trying to set boundaries, but there is a larger brain, which is the cerebral cortex, which is wanting to expand. Your business instincts are to expand, but your survival instinct is to put boundaries. You see, maybe these days you're not seeing much because everybody's… all the dogs are on the leash. If you let them be, you will see they will pee all over the place. Not because they have a urinary problem, they are trying to establish a boundary. I think we are evolved enough not to pee all over the place anymore. We've done that for long enough. That we don't have to go on setting up boundaries and then see how to operate beyond the boundary. First, why set it up? Boundary is relevant only for the physical. For all other aspects of our life, we don't need boundaries. Physical needs a boundary. This is your body, this is my body, this needs a boundary. It's only with boundary physical can be manifested and established. But everything else need not have a boundary. But people are so strongly identified with their physicality today. Physical has become everything, particularly Western culture, much more in the American culture, physical has become the most dominant factor. Even if you teach them yoga, I must tell you, I was in California and I just had a bit of time in the morning, I thought I'll do a quick 9 holes and come. So I pull my cap really low so that I have some hope that they won't recognize me. So I put my head down and keep walking and playing. So somebody comes up and asks a volunteer who's playing with me, "Who's he? Is he that man?" I say, "Yes." "Oh, can he teach us some yoga?" There, on the golf course. I keep going with the ball. Then they come up to me and say, "Sadhguru, if you learn your yoga, will I get 6 abs?" I looked at him and said, "You'll get 18, is that okay with you?" Because on the golf course, if I teach you something, you may get 18 abs, not 6. I'm saying even a profound science with which one can evolve beyond their limitations is taught, people try to turn it physical. It's all become excessively physical in this country, it's very distressing to see that. So physicality is very strong. There are various historical reasons for this. But whatever we did yesterday is fine, we cannot correct that. But we can correct what we're doing today so that our tomorrow will be different. For this, unfortunately, a whole segment of humanity learns only when there is some calamity. It's an unfortunate way of learning. If we create sufficient awareness, we can change without calamities hitting us. Otherwise, calamities will come. It is in the nature of things. If we continue to build in a direction without the necessary fundamentals, it is bound to collapse at some point. So the European economy, the way it is sustained, is only because of their access to resources elsewhere. Those resources will close up, you understand? When I go to these economic summits, they always refer to India and Asia as emerging markets. I said, this is one thing you have to change in your mind, that I am not a marketplace. You must see as an opportunity to change life in another part of the world. You must see an opportunity to build another part of the world into well-being, not as a marketplace. Money you will anyway make, but in your basic fundamentals, if you see people as a marketplace, you will only try to squeeze them, you will not try to make their life. But your business will expand and sustain only if you make their life. So, the European model has survived for a long time because of certain nourishment from Asia and Africa. If as these countries develop by themselves and they stop nourishing this economy, they will have serious problems. Already they're having big problems, very big problems. And another thing is, in Europe, when things go wrong, unrest on the street will happen instantly. That won't happen in America. It's been very well controlled, that part of it. No unrest will happen. Something happened, Wall Street, something some time ago, but you see how easily it can be taken off. So, the chances of America taking on the European style of economy are remote right now, and they shouldn't, if you ask me. What I would say is, America has a wealth of natural resources and technological prowess. Instead of using military prowess to do business, if they use this technological prowess to embrace the world, American business will boom and the world will boom too. And that's how you should think. Instead of using the right things, we are using the wrong things.
There's a journal that the quantum physicists read called Quantum Magazine. In the, I'm sorry my voice is hoarse, I was meditating last night.
What is that? You were meditating with Mr. Jack Daniel? Can you say?
In Nashville. But in this quantum journal, in this quantum magazine, which is the journal of quantum physicists, there was an article that showed that they have finally discovered, scientists have finally discovered that time and space are not real. Okay? They went to the Fleming thing, they came up with a 9-page formula and figured it out. And they also can now explain gravity for the first time. Now, science is the god of the developing West. That's what we listen to. If Katie Couric comes on the evening news and says that if we eat a bunch of sprouts.
I'm
and
sure
we'll
you
have a
don't
better
say,
sex life.
I'm sure you don't say this in Nashville.
My point is, I think we are on the cusp, finally, of science, which was a response against all the illusions, to now finally realize that there's positive illusions, that time and space are a mutually agreed upon illusion, which allows us to create a magnificent language, which allows us to become self-conscious. As science begins to finally embrace this will be really, really important, because the oneness of nature will now seen as priority, and the separate parts, or the physical that you were talking about, will seen as a part of language instead of as another reality. So I think we're on the cusp of something that can change the way business is ruling the world, because the voice of science is the guide for the societies of the developed nations. So I want to know what you think about this.
About time and space. This is not new to the East. Adiyogi means the first yogi. A little over 15,000 years ago, when he was asked, what is the nature of the cosmos? He said, the whole cosmos can be packed into a mustard seed. And when they asked, how is all this happening in the universe? He simply said like this, he was drunk always, so he said like this. 5. He said only 5 things, 5 elements, that's all. The whole thing is the mischief of these 5 things. You look into my eyes and see, I'm always stoned. Never touched a substance in my life. Not drunk on wine, but divine, you know. Because these are contradictory things. Distance and lack of distance, time, an hour and a zero seem to be different things. Drunkenness and awareness seem to be 2 different things. No, once you transcend time and space, you're intoxicated and aware at the same time. It's the best way to be, and there's no hangover for me, see? If we have to look at this, shall I share something of my own experience? This happened to me when I was 4 years of age. Suddenly one day I realized, I know nothing. I know nothing means I know nothing at all. If somebody gives me a glass of water, I keep staring at this water for 3 to 4 hours at a stretch, because I do not know what is water. Well, I know if I drink this it'll quench my thirst and so many different ways of using it, but I don't know what water is, even today. Water is the only substance found in this planet in all the 3 states. 2/3 of the planet is water, 2/3 of your body is water. If you look for life, you look for a drop of water just about anywhere. It is the juice of your life. But do you know what it is? With all the scientific exploration, we still do not know even a single atom in its entirety. We know how to use them, we know how to break them, we know how to fuse them, but we don't know what it is. If we knew what it is, we would have created one. So, I realized I do not know anything. If I sit up in the bed, I'm just staring into the darkness for the whole night. My dear father, being a physician, started thinking, I need psychiatric evaluation. So this boy is simply staring at something, unblinking, he's lost it. In this condition, they sent me to school. My mother said, pay attention to the teacher. I went and paid attention to the teacher, absolute attention. The kind of attention that they would have never ever received in their life. And initially I heard them speaking and I understood the words. After some time I realized, they're only making sounds, I'm making up the meanings in my head. Even now, see, language is a conspiracy between 2 people. Understand? I make one sound, you make up the meaning. Suppose I start talking in a language that you do not understand, I will be just making sounds as far as you're concerned, isn't it? So when I realized this, I stopped making meanings. I just started listening to the sounds with full attention. This is one problem with most human beings. The moment they don't understand something, they don't want to listen. Now listen to those things which you do not understand, because those are the things which need to be listened to, isn't it? What you do not understand needs much more of your attention than what you understand, isn't it? So I just listened to this chatter throughout the day by the teachers, and it became very amusing over a period of time, and a big smile spread on my face. They were not amused at all. And education went on very consistently for me, because every monthly test, I remember this very well. You still have this process here that monthly there's a report card, you have to take it to your parents' signature back. You have that, or it comes on the email probably? So this monthly report card business is one big thing in the school. When they give this, some children are strutting around because they're first, second, something, somebody else is crying because they failed or whatever. Not once did I ever open this report card. It was given to me, I took it and gave it to my dad. Because I thought this is a transaction between my teacher and my father, I didn't want to interfere in that. I never opened and looked, because anyway I knew there will be 6 zeros. Because I never wrote a single word in any test paper. If they insisted, I wrote my name, otherwise empty paper is all that I gave them. The education went on like this, I went from class to class somehow. And about 5 years ago, the school where I studied over 45 years ago, they came to invite me for their 125th anniversary of the school. I said, see, why me? Because I was not just a not good student, I was not even a student. Why are you inviting me? They said, see, our school has produced federal ministers, cricketing stars, film stars. You are the only mystic, you have to come. So I went. I went and stood up in the quadrangle to speak, the same oppressive buildings. And I looked at this particular classroom and it suddenly came back to me. I was a little over 12 years of age. One afternoon, a teacher is talking to me and trying to get some response from me. I'm paying absolute attention. But those days I was made like this, 5, 6 days at a stretch, I don't utter a single word. Because when you don't know anything, what do you say? Simply, I'm paying. If I look at this one dot on this carpet will hold my attention for a whole day. Where is the room to look at something else and speak? So I'm just paying attention but no response. After about 35–40 minutes, he got so mad with me. He came and held me by the shoulder, shook me violently and said, you must either be the divine or the devil. I think you're the later. I did not feel abused or insulted by this. Till that moment my problem was, I do not know what is this, I do not know what is that, I do not know what is this, what is this. This is my issue. But I knew one thing, I knew this is me. Suddenly this man confused me about this also. I looked, is this divine, devil, what the hell is this? Well, suddenly I realized I did not even know what is this. So I closed my eyes and sat. Minutes went into hours. One day I just sat like this with my eyes closed. I thought I sat there for 25–30 minutes. I opened my eyes, a whole crowd of people around me, garlands around my neck, people are trying to pull my legs. It's an Indian tradition. Somebody wants to know about his business, somebody wants to know when his daughters will get married, all kinds of ridiculous things. I said, where the hell did all of you come from? Because when I closed my eyes, they were not there. When I opened my eyes, a big crowd. They said, you've been sitting here for 13 days. I thought it's about 25–30 minutes. So, knowing that time and space is just a magnification of your mind, it's been common knowledge in the East from our experience of life. It's nice science is moving towards mysticism, they can't help it. It's just that they don't have the tools and they are stuck with their simple logic and they're afraid to leave it. It takes the next generation of scientists to look beyond the present levels of logic and explore life in a much deeper way. She told me I have to close at 10:30, thank you very much.